Now I would like to speak a little bit in English in order to introduce the project Art at CERN, le projet Art du CERN. Donc le CERN en anglais c'est le European Organization for Nuclear Research. And I'm very happy to welcome first of all Monica Bello, head of the project, and then Laura Cudo Rosado, designer and last year in residence at the CERN. Please, Monica. And finally, James Bickham, but you can come just after, okay. 10 minutes each, thank you very much. James Bickham, who is particle physicist at the CERN, and we would like to present it 10 minutes per people, and then we have a small discussion in order to introduce this project. Vous l'avez compris, c'est le projet Art du CERN, avec des ateliers et des artistes en résidence à l'intérieur de la structure. 3 personnes vont nous le présenter, Monica Bello, qui est chef du projet, et ensuite une artiste, designer, qui était en résidence au CERN l'année passée, et un physicien des particules, James Bickham. J'espère que je prononce juste, mais je pourrais me rattraper. Monica, please, the stage is for you.
Thank you, Jean-Pierre. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here in Valais. It's always an excuse to leave Geneva on CERN and come here to the mountains, this amazing valley. I'm very happy to come here to speak about my project, the project that is a project of 10,000 people. I come from CERN. It's one of the largest scientific community based in Geneva, but all over the world. As you probably heard, in CERN, people are looking for the origins of the universe, the properties and laws of nature, and fundamentally, they look through technology that is one of the most complex and precise artifacts ever built by humans. And so I like to move to the next, I guess I do like this, yeah? Okay, very strong. This is what CERN is located. This is about 20 minutes outside Geneva. As you see, well, this is just a part of CERN. It's one of the sites. It's the Meran site. But CERN is around the Large Hadron Collider. It's a 27 kilometers long circle around which there are different sites, different buildings, and I would say around 60 different experiments, 300 buildings, an average every day of 10,000, 11,000 people working, and everyone looking for a single question: what is matter? How everything started? And it's a superlative environment. Everything is large, everything is big. It's the largest machine in the world. It's the largest scientific community. It's also the place, the hottest place in the universe, the coolest. It's 10,000 times hotter than the sun. This is crazy. This is really almost obscene to us. And this is also the most powerful computing artifact ever built, because data is coming and flowing to us from the detectors every second in huge amounts. So you probably know this machine. This is Atlas. This is one of the detectors of the 4 detectors of the Large Hadron Collider. It's an instrument built to capture the information that is coming from the combining of energy and matter. And I think I will not elaborate in the science, because we have scientists in the room, but I want to show you exactly these places where artists later come and are invited. So this is another view of Atlas. Atlas is as big as an Olympic swimming pool, so there are many ways and angles to look at the machine. But there is always this sense of wonder and awe and impressed by the capacity and the ability of going so far in technological and scientific research. So when an artist is here, it's obvious to us that is looking with these eyes, wondering about the hidden phenomena that these complex artifacts are bringing to our knowledge. So I like to see that and to listen to them, trying to understand these places and these phenomena that is difficult to reach with our normal and bare senses. So before explaining you about the arts program and how it operates, I like to come and reflect with you on what an artist could be looking at in this environment. It's obvious to me that in a highly scientific and technological society, there is this moment when you think and you consider what sets of tools you apply to explore further and to think about reality and to think about why are we approaching this kind of questions with these large apparatuses. And this is one of the main reasons of the foundation of the program. In 2011, the director at the time, our former director, Rolf Hoyer, thought that was a moment, after many years of having an increasing demand from the intellectual, the creative people, the designers, the artists, and the architects for many years that knock in the door of the lab. This was the moment to say, hey, you are welcome. And you are welcome to stay, not as visitors, not as tourists, but as investigators. Let's investigate in another language, with another vocabulary, and with another set of tools that later it might help to not only reach the community of artists, but also society. So the official arts program of CERN started in 2011, and the governance of the project was based on a cultural policy. The lab's cultural policy is based still now in a cultural board formed by scientists and by people from important museums in the world, like Pompidou or Opera de Lyon or others, and was based in the vision that art needed to be welcome in these environments, to create spaces that allow further investigations and conversations and ongoing dialogues about why humans are always looking further of our senses. Also, for me personally, it was an important key moment in an exploration in art and science. For many years, we've been talking and speaking and trying to encourage a practice that is cross-disciplinary. And speaking about how artists react, what tools they use, and how different or commonalities they have with scientists. And for me, right now, in my opinion, we are in this moment when we need to renew this dialogue and this analysis about art and science interactions by bringing experiences and neutral spaces that allow diversity. Because there are many kinds of scientists, there are many kinds of labs, there are many and huge diversity in artistic practices, and all of them together can bring, can build neutral spaces where meaningful experiences can happen. So this is in practical terms, we invite artists to be with us in fully funded residencies. They are part of the community. They spend time with us. They come and work. They have a studio. But the most important part is the interaction between artists and scientists. Of course, artists are still coming from outside to a community that is largely scientific. And it's not only scientific, it's particle physics. That's very difficult to get. There is a petri dish where you can see things happening, which is very exciting to most of us. But particle physics requires a massive investment in thinking and trying to understand a language that is most of the time alien to us. So for doing that, we create some dynamics that are far from bringing the artist and say, hey, you go there autonomously and find your way around and do your connections. During the time the artists are with us, they go to multiple experiments, they go to different areas of research, they meet scientists, and they are accompanied by a scientific partner. So with Collide, Accelerate, Guest Artists, and New Productions, our 4 programs, we try to build different stages in artistic practice inside a lab, which is research, which is elaboration, engagement, dialogue with the community and the science, production of artworks, and later exhibitions. And we do that to foster a unique expertise in creative practice in connection with science and technology in a lab of particle physics. Questions that usually we get from the artist. These are just examples that could be multiplied. How can we bring science into the world of experience? Science and scientific knowledge could become an experience. How we engage with the experience of this knowledge that is being given to us by science. How can we make science more intimate, more close to us, more engaging? How can art help non-experts to connect with imagination and cognition to the endeavor of physics? And very importantly, how can we establish art and science in constructive, mutually enhancing, yet not instrumentalized relation to each other? Since 2011, we have 12 artists every year in different periods. Collide allows, the program Collide allows them to be 3 months with us. Accelerate a month, guest artists a little less, 3 days. And New Productions is an ongoing production, artists that come and go to do an artwork. And in the image, you see an artist, Joe Gerhan, in the archives and in the particle theory department, where they've been working in depth with string theories. And sadly, it should be a link to this film, but there is no. Still, you can find it in our website. The View from Nowhere is one of the artworks that we co-produce with the FACT and Lelia Unique, with institutions that are keen to invest and explore the world of art and science. And well, I wanted to be brief and concise, and I think this is the end of my presentation, but I'm happy to answer any question later.
All right, thank you very much. So my slides will be the correct. Okay, great. So, en fait, je parle un petit peu français, mais je pense ton anglais c'est mieux que mon français. So I will proceed in English. Trust me, it's better that way. So I push this hard. Yeah, there we go. Yes. One more time. No. Yes. So, a little bit about me. I grew up in southern Utah, and this is a state in the very far western part of the United States. And it's a perfect place as a little kid when you're curious about nature, because look at that sky. Perfect conditions for staring up at the sky, wondering about the mysteries of the universe. And when you're a little kid, that's basically all you have, right? This is what I had as a child, to wonder about the universe, the stars, my eyes, beautiful night sky. And then, of course, I got a little older and I got a microscope and I could go to the library. And I kept doing this, and I never got rid of the curiosity of this desire to understand more about our universe, about nature. And apparently I could not stop, because now I find myself eventually working with not my eyes or a microscope, but with the largest scientific experiment in history. So I'm very privileged to be working at the Large Hadron Collider. And before we get too far, we should answer a few very important questions that is related to why we're even here to talk about the combination between arts and science. What is CERN? What is the Large Hadron Collider? And what do I do there? Why is it important? And why might it be attractive to artists in some capacity? So the first one is easy. The Large Hadron Collider at CERN was built for one reason: to explore the biggest mysteries of physics with the largest scientific experiment in history. It's the place where we investigate the hidden secrets of nature at its extremes, trying to answer the baffling open questions of science about the nature of dark matter, about quantum black holes, about gravity, about antimatter, about the Higgs boson. This is scientific exploration right at the very edge of human knowledge, the extreme boundary of reality. So the experiment itself is a 27-kilometer circular tunnel on the border of France and Switzerland, buried 100 meters underground, as Monica mentioned. And in this tunnel, we use superconducting magnets that are colder than outer space. And we use them to accelerate tiny particles, protons, you're made of protons, to almost the speed of light. And then we smash them into each other millions of times a second. And we do this for months and years and collect a gigantic data set, the largest unique data set in human history, to look for evidence of things like dark matter and quantum black holes, the biggest open questions of science. And we collect this data in big experiments like the ones that I work on called, whoops, push it hard, there we go, oh. And to give you a bit of a contrast, this is what it might look like around the San Francisco Bay. It's a very, very large experiment. Right. Yeah, and this is a little bit of the animation's here too, great. So this is basically what I just said in a nice little animation. It goes through the whole process of you follow along with the proton as it goes through the different levels and eventually gets to an actual collision. And I'll let it sit there for a second. So so these protons go around this ring. You're going to go down into the tunnel. It's going to be like a Star Wars movie here. You'll eventually go, watch this. Oh, yeah, they're following the path of the proton. Oh, look at that. Oh, went over the border from France to Switzerland. It does. It crosses the border, I think, 3 or 4 places. Now you're a proton, and you're right in the middle of this particle. You're right in this beam, and eventually the place where the two, these two beams go parallel to each other, and eventually you have to cross them into each other. And the place where they collide, you better build a gigantic detector, because quantum field theory magic is going to happen. And that's what it kind of looks like there. And so by big experiment, I mean really big. And so the one that I work on is called Atlas, and this is 6 stories high, 46 meters long, and it's 100 meters underground. And it's like a huge beer can tipped on its side and filled with complicated electronics. And these electronics are there to collect a snapshot of the outgoing particles that resulted when 2 protons collided. And this is a record of the event. When the outgoing particles hit our detector electronics with a particular pattern of arcs and blobs of energy, this information is read out to data storage. And snapshot is a pretty good word here, because our detectors like Atlas have about 100 million readout channels, and so Atlas is essentially a big digital camera like the one in your phone, which collects particles as well, photons, except ATLAS is a bit different because it's a 6-story high, 100 megapixel camera that takes 3-dimensional photos 40 million times a second. And our photos aren't cat photos or vacation selfies, but our photos could contain evidence of dark matter, quantum black holes, or extra dimensions of space. So maybe they're okay too. But you should really be yelling in frustration at this point because this is still, I'm kind of just an excitable scientist just yammering on. What the hell am I talking about? We smash 2 protons together and perhaps make a dark matter particle? Where is the dark matter coming from? Was it hidden inside the proton? And then by smashing it head on, we broke them apart into their constituent parts and the dark matter is inside and it kind of just came out? Was the dark matter created magically out of nothing? Am I seriously telling you that we smack together 2 protons and a mysterious quantum black hole or a Higgs boson or dark photon appears out of nothing? Well, sort of, but not really, because protons, the particles we put in this beam in the LHC, they actually do have things inside them. You saw that image of the particle moving along. There's actually stuff down inside there. And so there's things called quarks and gluons inside. And in fact, when we say we collide 2 protons together, what we really mean is that 2 protons get close enough via some kind of, close enough so that their constituent quarks and gluons can notice each other via some kind of force. So this is what really is happening. They get together and then they can start to feel each other, and one of the forces of nature will pull them together. This is what we're actually doing. Everything at the particle level happens, that is, particles interact, they collide, whatever, by one of the 4 known fundamental forces of nature, and that's it. There's only 4 ways by which anything can happen in the world, in the universe. And these forces are represented by other types of particles, force-carrying particles. So, for example, an electron and its opposite, a positron, can get close to each other and interact by exchanging a force-carrying particle of electromagnetism, a particle you know very well, the photon. You are bathed in photons right now. So imagine you and your friend are at an ice skating rink, and you're both standing on the rink right next to each other. And I have a huge rock in my hand. I don't know why I have this at the ice skating rink, but I do. And I throw the rock to you. When I throw the rock, I'm going to glide backwards. If you catch the rock, you're also going to glide backwards. So that's an analogy to what happens at the particle level. We exchanged a force-carrying particle, and something happened. This is really what's happening down below. And right. And so when 2 protons get very close together at extremely high energies, like in the LHC, 2 of the quarks can feel each other and be pulled out of the proton, and they can experience a version of this force-carrying particle exchange. And then those 2 particles, the 2 quarks, are the particles that really collide. So colliding 2 protons is really just a complicated way of colliding 2 quarks, which is what we really want. Because we're not really interested in knowing what's inside the proton. That's not why we're smashing them together. What we're doing is, we know what's inside of a proton. We're interested in what happens when we collide 2 point-like particles, 0-volume pieces of the universe, at extremely high energies never before achieved, because that's the way we can hopefully discover new things like we did with the Higgs boson. But think about what I just said. Point-like particles, the basic constituents of nature that have no volume, no spatial extent, and we're colliding them together? Does that make any sense at all? This is a totally justified and frustrated question, because what's really going on at the level of, what's really going on is a consequence of the non-intuitive nature of the quantum world, of how things happen at the quantum level, at the level of elementary particles. Because if you and your friend on the ice were really elementary particles, you would have another option. Not only could one of you throw the rock to the other, the 2 of you could actually smack together and become the rock. So, perhaps a different analogy. Particle collisions are not like car collisions. They have different rules. When two particles collide at almost the speed of light, the quantum world takes over. And in the quantum world, two particles can briefly cease to exist, and a new particle is created in their place. And that lives for a tiny fraction of a second before splitting into other particles that hit our detector. Imagine a car collision where the two cars vanish upon impact. A bicycle appears in their place. And then that bicycle explodes into two skateboards that hit our detector. That's really what's going on at the level of the quantum of quantum field theory. So we encode all of this, and I'm almost done. We encode all of this into these complicated diagrams here, where two particles are far away from each other in some time. Time goes on, they get close together, and then smack, they cease to exist, and a new thing exists for a small amount of time, the Z thing, that then splits into two other things. But look at that. We started with two things that are marked Q, and we end up with two things that are marked M, with this mu thing. That's crazy. The names of particles, the universe doesn't care about the names of the particles. It cares about, if you go back to your high school physics, things like conserved quantities. That gets really weird to us to think about that, because for car collisions, we care about the names of the people in the cars. Is Jerry okay? Is Martha okay? The universe doesn't care about that at all. They only care about things like conserved quantities like energy, momentum, things like this. So we use these types of things, and we go through the whole rigmarole to and that middle part is the thing we really care about, because as long as I make sure that everything is conserved along the way, along this time, I can put whatever I want in the middle. And the Z part there, we have discovered that particle a long time ago, way before my time. That's a great particle we know and love. However, if I have a new hypothesis to explain one of the biggest open mysteries of science, like what is dark matter, I can put whatever I want there. Some new thing, the James particle. I could hypothesize the new James particle, put it in there. As long as all of the conservation laws are satisfied, it could totally be there. However, it just remains an interesting idea until you go out and find it in an experiment. So that's what we do at the Large Hadron Collider, and I can give you a little bit more information about dark matter, some of the big questions we're trying to answer, but I think for the interest of time, I'll just put it out there. The questions we're trying to address are huge, and they're gigantically prominent, and they really need thousands of people to work on them. That's why we have thousands of people at CERN working on it. And so I'll skip to the end. Right. So yeah, a quick note about what we're actually doing when we go to these extremely high energies. Part of the reason why we have to use gigantic energies, such a huge detector, such a huge distance, is that there's an inverse relationship between energy and time. Because we say that we use the biggest energy ever, the highest energy ever used in a particle collision experiment. Okay, there's a caveat there, because the universe itself is always doing more high energy things out in the cosmos. But we can't control those collisions. What we can do is we can briefly recreate the conditions of the universe as they were just a fraction of a second after the Big Bang, when everything in the universe was packed together into a tiny, tiny, dense little spot. And when you do that with particles, they start to vibrate. They don't like that. And so the average energy of the universe at the moment of the Big Bang was extremely high. And then as everything expanded, everything cooled down. And as it stands now, our temperature, our average energy of the universe is very low. Back in the day, it was extremely high. And that's the place where the new particles, or quizzically, the old particles, may have existed in abundance, and that's why we have to go to such extremes. We can't get particles going fast enough, high enough energy to get to this place that was just a fraction of a second after the Big Bang to be able to discover them, unless we go to gigantic machines. That's why we need 27 kilometers, and in fact, that's not enough. The next generation, as you probably know, will be something like 100 kilometers, and it'll go all the way around the Soleil and underneath Lac Le Mans. So bigger is better, let's put it that way. So just to completely conclude, yeah, I'm done. So this is what I do all day at the LHC. So CERN is this place where we use the largest science experiment ever, the Large Hadron Collider, to explore the mysteries of gravity, dark matter, quantum black holes, and new forces of nature, recreating the conditions of the universe as they were a fraction of a second after the Big Bang 14 billion years ago, stretching the boundaries of human knowledge to their breaking point, all within an explicitly international, peaceful, not-for-profit, multicultural, and inclusive collaborative model. It's a playground for human curiosity, taken to its extremes, and the place where we try to understand the basic, immutable rules of the universe, how the universe came to be in the state we observe it right now, why it even exists in the first place. And I suppose that may be attractive to artists in some capacity.
Bonjour. Merci. Je vais m'exprimer en français. Ce sera plus confortable pour moi et j'espère peut-être aussi pour vous. Je m'appelle Laura Couturozado. Je me définis comme une designer hybride. J'ai une pratique qui est plutôt décomplexée, à cheval entre l'art et le design, avec une pratique transversale qui utilise plusieurs disciplines, design produit, design d'interaction, média design, recherche. Dans cette pratique que j'ai hybride, je suis plutôt inspirée par les sciences, la science fondamentale et ses méthodologies, parce que pour moi, c'est une source qui porte un savoir universel sur la nature et sur les phénomènes fantastiques de la nature. J'ai eu l'opportunité de faire la résidence il y a à peu près maintenant 1 an et demi au CERN et je vais vous montrer 2 projets qui restent en work in progress que je développe depuis cette résidence. Donc le premier projet s'appelle Sparkling Quantum Plasticine. C'est une conférence performative que je fais avec un autre physicien au CERN qui se nomme Jérémy Nietzila. On a présenté ce talk performatif la semaine dernière au Retune Festival à Berlin, qui est un festival à cheval entre le design, l'art et les technologies. Dans cette collaboration avec Jérémy, l'idée était de partager, lui comme pour moi, une vision de raconter les phénomènes de la physique des particules à une large audience, à un public large. Donc, Jérémy s'est mis dans la peau d'un performeur, d'un acteur, et puis moi, je me suis mis derrière, dans les backstage, à jouer en temps réel musique et visuel que j'ai développé par cette collaboration. Je vous montre quelques images seulement de ce travail. Tout ce processus, pour ma part, a été d'essayer de capturer un petit quelque chose de cet univers intangible et qui est bien au-delà de notre propre imagination. Et essayer peut-être, par exemple, ici, de mapper ou de donner à voir des phénomènes qui sont générés dans une collision de particules à l'intérieur d'un instrument comme le LHC, et qui pourraient être des phénomènes qui seront un mélange entre des phénomènes connus et encore non connus. Par exemple, ici, une tentative de visualisation du quark gluon plasma. Cet état de la matière, c'est un nom exotique, je trouve absolument fascinant, dont j'ai entendu pour la première fois au CERN, et qui est un état de matière que l'on peut uniquement observer après le Big Bang. Alors, je trouve ce travail, cet exercice, très prenant, pas vraiment facile, mais assez, on va dire, très absorbant comme ça, parce qu'il me pousse à chercher et à essayer de dessiner la matière telle qu'elle était à l'origine de tout. Un autre projet, Quantum Nuggets, Quantum Nuggets ou pépites quantiques découle de l'accès que j'ai eu durant la résidence au Big Data. Le CERN génère une masse extraordinaire et incommensurable de données scientifiques qui proviennent des instruments, notamment des 4 principaux détecteurs qui sont posés sur le Large Hadron Collider. Et ces données qui sont enregistrées permettent à James, par exemple, de prédire ou découvrir des nouveaux phénomènes quantiques ou des phénomènes que l'on a calculés mais qu'on n'a pas encore pu observer. Mais que se passe-t-il si je m'approprie ces données et que je les réintègre dans un processus créatif? Donc j'ai un peu recherché de mon côté. Voilà, c'est un phénomène inexpliqué. Donc à partir de cette visuelle, j'ai essayé de mixer, d'intégrer ces données-là dans un programme que j'ai prototypé qui me permet de déformer des objets en 3D. C'est des outils qu'on utilise pour faire de la modélisation 3D sur ordinateur. Et j'ai pu récupérer ces données-là et les intégrer dans le programme et essayer de voir qu'est-ce qu'il en ressortirait. Donc, il en ressort ce que j'appelle aujourd'hui ces pépites quantiques, qui est un processus que je continue d'explorer autour de nouvelles alternatives autour de la 3D, qui utilisent les données réelles de collision de particules du CERN. Ce processus me donne la possibilité d'aller au-delà des frontières qu'on a habituellement l'habitude d'avoir dans les programmes de modélisation de 3D. C'est un outil qui est aussi assez ludique, qui permet qui est un processus à long terme, qui permet de vraiment être dans ce cheminement d'essayer, de tester et de ne pas vraiment savoir exactement où est-ce que ce processus va nous amener. Pour l'instant, les résultats de cette recherche sont des artefacts sculpturaux qui évoquent cette question autour de la matière et de son origine, et qui évoquent finalement la question de notre propre origine. Là, vous avez cette fameuse pépite quantique que l'on peut vraiment observer et toucher. Elle est tangible. Donc, j'ai pu imprimer ces formes qui ont été générées à partir de ces big data. Et ce qu'on peut observer, c'est cette analogie entre ces pépites d'or qui se sont formées tout le long d'un processus de la formation de la croûte terrestre, et d'un autre côté, ces pépites qui sont issues de ce processus humain d'essayer de comprendre la nature et ses phénomènes. L'idée avec ces deux projets qui sont vraiment une présentation, qui se déploie dans une présentation très picorée, très succincte, c'est juste pour vous montrer qu'en tant que designer, vous pouvez collaborer, vous pouvez réellement avec des physiciens, des scientifiques ou des laboratoires de sciences fondamentales enrichir profondément votre propre pratique, que vous pouvez ouvrir des nouvelles perspectives dans votre propre domaine. Par exemple, ici, dans le design processus, d'ouvrir très, très grand l'apport de process en design. Et de laisser entrevoir la possibilité d'appliquer ces nouveaux processus à un marché plus concret que celui du marché économique. Voilà pour cette présentation très succincte de mon travail.
Voilà, merci Laura. Je vous invite à rester avec nous pour la discussion finale. J'invite aussi James et Monica à nous rejoindre. So, Monica, just the first question for this final discussion. You have been responsible as head of this project for several years. Vous êtes responsable depuis de nombreuses années de ce projet. How can you assess the relationship between artists and physicists? And how do you assess the concrete collaborations that they may do together? Comment vous évaluez cette relation entre artistes et scientifiques et ce qu'ils produisent, ce qui est fait?
I can start by going back to the beginning, when the program was named Collide. This was the original title of our program. Collide meant to go beyond collaboration and try to trigger some exchange that was not obvious to us. And so I think in my experience in CERN, this is how I could define it. You cannot think of preconceptions. Each case is different, and the artistic practices as well as the scientific the scientific work is different. But in general, looking at this from a global perspective, I think there is a sort of misunderstanding and misconception from one part and the other. What scientists do, what an artist do, what is the practice, the professionality, the amateurism. So we only solve this by bringing spaces of dialogue. And then collaboration can come later. Not always, but could emerge for this dialogue. And I like to think of a bottom-up approach to these experiences and a tailor-made residency for each artist and scientist.
Donc a priori une collaboration pas évidente entre artistes et scientifiques, des conceptions un peu différentes. Et puis le CERM avec cette résidence permet justement de mettre ensemble et puis d'aller plus loin dans ce dialogue. Justement, Laura, comment est-ce qu'on fait pour travailler entre artistes et scientifiques? On n'a pas forcément les mêmes références, on n'a pas forcément les mêmes conceptions. Comment est-ce qu'on fait pour trouver un chemin commun par rapport à votre expérience au CERN? Comment ça s'est passé concrètement?
Je dirais que la première des choses, quand on collabore avec James, par exemple, c'est tout d'abord des interactions qui sont humaines. C'est une discussion, c'est une première impression. C'est assez simple. On a l'opportunité de rencontrer beaucoup de physiciens quand on est en résidence et on sent qu'on a des accroches avec tel ou tel physicien. C'est tout d'abord, je dirais, simplement un processus naturel, la collaboration entre artistes et scientifiques. Et après, je dirais que peut-être contrairement à ce que l'on peut penser, la frontière entre l'un et l'autre, elle est assez finalement floue. Je dirais une grosse divergence entre nous, c'est qu'on n'officie pas pour le même but. Un scientifique, par exemple, au CERN, il a l'intention de découvrir davantage autour de la matière et de son origine depuis le Big Bang, alors que simplement une personne engagée dans un processus créatif peut explorer l'univers de la physique quantique, de la physique des particules, mais avec un tout autre but, qui est une approche, on va dire, polymorphite et éclatée, et qui donne à voir des points de vue, on va dire, inédits autour d'un sujet, autour d'un ressenti, autour de phénomènes, beaucoup moins en connexion avec la nécessité de révéler un savoir universel.
And James, for you, was it easy to work together to find a common topic, to create real interaction? Difficile de trouver ces interactions, facile de collaborer? Comment ça se passe?
No, because it was somewhat easy in a way, because as I think Monica pointed out and Laura was touching upon, the program was designed to not have one concept predefined in a way. So there's not like a project that Laura came and said, I want to do X, and I'm going to do X while I'm at CERN, and James is assigned to work with her with that. It was more about opening a dialogue between artists and scientists, kind of open-ended in a way. And that's why, for example, Laura was exposed to, I was technically her scientific partner, but she talked to, dozens, of physicists while she was there. For example, Jeremy, right? I mean, ended up with a marvelous project with him. And so our discussions were more or less, to me, the most fascinating part of this entire program is because we're trying to get on the same wavelength over the course of several days and weeks, and discussing what it is that I do, why we do what we do, why we do the research, why it's interesting, what are the types of questions we're trying to answer, and what are the tools that we use to do so. That's sort of an entire playground that two minds can investigate and explore together. So it was really simultaneously challenging because there's different languages that we use, and we had to work through the conversations to finally get to a point where find the most fertile ground. But it was also really easy because it's really fun and extremely fascinating to talk to someone that's coming from a different perspective, right? Because in a sense, the long-standing discussion between art and science, it's currently a sort of a hot topic, but it's been there forever, since the dawn of science and art, because in a sense, they're both two different ways of inquiry, two ways of asking questions about the world around us, right? And so when you come to those from two different perspectives, eventually it's just a matter of finding the right intersection or multiple intersections as to where you'd hopefully open up a new space where creative ideas can come in. So it was a lot of fun.
So two ways to be curious. So.
Yeah.
Donc un projet qui est ouvert, qui permet de s'inscrire dans ce cadre, qui n'est pas contraignant, et puis ce dialogue qui semble être le plus important dans la discussion, dans le processus que le résultat. Just a question for all. What is the most important thing you learned with art at CERN, Monica? Personally or professionally?
That's a big question, huh?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'm learning every day. So I learn particle physics.
Yes, okay.
So I'm an art historian myself, and I have studies in history of science and philosophy of science. But particle physics is another level. So I learn a lot, and this is something I will take from this experience. But what I learn as well is that you learn and research by practice, and the environment, the fieldwork approach is very important. And each artist takes a different approach, and I'm talking about the artists because it's the people that come from outside, like me, like myself, as a curator, and try to engage with a community that all of them do the same. They are engineers and scientists looking for the same question. So we are from outside, and so how to engage with a different language, which is even a different vocabulary. In the case of Laura, the proposal she put to, you had to apply and with an idea, with a proposal that later was developed and lost, but still there, was about the vocabulary that physicists use to define particles. So only starting from this is really important standing point to start to develop something in this very complex environment. So that's my learning, what I got from that, as many other things.
Thank you. Pour vous, Laura, qu'est-ce que vous retenez de cette expérience qui continue, mais point important?
Waouh. Je dirais que cette résidence assez courte, au final, c'est 3 mois, a été vécue de manière comme une sorte cataclysme extra positif. Ça m'a permis de comprendre énormément de subtilité autour de ma propre pratique, de comprendre à quel point j'étais à l'aise dans cet environnement dédié aux sciences fondamentales, à quel point je me sentais à l'aise avec les communautés de scientifiques et que peut-être je sentais que j'avais la possibilité de ressentir une approche de la compréhension que j'avais qui me permet vraiment de m'inspirer et puis de pouvoir proposer des projets. Et je me suis rendu compte qu'après 3 mois de résidence immergée là-bas, je pouvais produire une masse de travail sur 30 ans. Comme un physicien planifie son expérience autour aussi sur 30 ans, 40 ans et plus. Donc, c'est pour juste vous dire à quel point c'est juste énormissime de pénétrer le CERN par la porte des expériences, de rencontrer James, d'observer ses instruments, d'essayer de, même si on n'a aucune vraiment de familiarité avec les mathématiques, d'arriver juste par l'observation de ces instruments à l'échelle architecturale, de sentir par ces formes qui suivent ces fonctions, ces phénomènes extraordinaires qui sont reproduits là-bas.
Donc on parlait du regard extérieur, des questions de vocabulaire aussi. James, the most important thing for you in your research or for you personally?
Most important in general or from the project?
The project, but...
So, yeah, I guess the most important thing that I gain from interactions with artists like Laura and other artists that come through is a better sense of how to connect with people in humanity who are not scientists. Does that make sense? Because as a scientist, as a working physicist, we know what we do, and there's thousands of us, and we're this kind of like CERN colony, and we get in our tunnel vision, and we just talk in our own kind of jargony language, shortcuts to really understand our data, right? That's, we're scientists. But you get lost at some point. You lose sight of the larger picture. You lose sight of why it is that we do. Internally you don't. We all are there. Those of us that are scientists at CERN, we have PhDs and years of experience. We're not there because we're going to get rich, because we're not. And we're not there because we're going to make a bomb, because we're not. It's a non-militaristic thing. And we're not going to make a product. We're there because we're curious. And so we know that, but you lose sight of it when you kind of just do your research all the time and you have to publish papers and you have to get your new job. It's like regular things. So taking a break from that and getting a chance to interact with someone that's coming to our research from a different mind gives you a greater perspective on your research, and it reminds you, as the fact that our research really does belong to the entire world. It is a big worldwide collaboration. It's a human endeavor, for science just for curiosity's sake. We're supported by public funds from all over the world. This science we do really does belong to everyone, but there's a barrier because of what we have been saying, in different talks, is that the science is very complicated. It does really require 6 years of quantum field theory calculations and a PhD on your name to be able to really be able to do the research in it. Okay. But to get a sense as to why we do it, you don't need any of that stuff. And that's why getting a chance to talk with artists about it gives me a larger perspective as to how to connect to people. It's like, if someone comes away from one of my public talks and the only thing they know is the numerical value of the Higgs boson mass, I have failed. If instead they come away with a sense as to why we are interested in the Higgs boson, why it's such a fascinating particle for the entire existence of us here. For example, if it was not for the Higgs boson and the Higgs field, none of us would be here right now to have this discussion. That's way better than saying the Higgs boson was found at 125 MeV, blah, blah. That's much, much easier. And so getting a chance to interact with artists, and you get a sense of this wonder and curiosity from a different perspective.
Donc l'artiste permet de challenger aussi le scientifique, de donner du recul, donner un sens, de faire réfléchir, de nouvelles perspectives. Thanks for this answer. Avez-vous des questions? Questions from the audience, please.
is it possible that also musicians can participate in this project?
Yes, we had musicians before, and we are open to all types of art, but there is always a component or a combination, which is science and technology, and this is the big attraction to many of the artists, and this is what we can offer to them, as well as a really interesting sociological environment or ethnographic even. But the musicians are open as far as we can provide them, or fulfill their expectations.
Ouvert à toutes les disciplines artistiques dans cette résidence. D'autres questions?
Yes, I have a question for James. So your project, Art and Science, concern the world after Big Bang. What about the project, same sort, concerning before Big Bang?
It's a very, very profound question. And it's so profound at this point that it's so profound it's beyond science at the moment, and it's sort of into the realm of philosophy. Okay, that's not entirely true, but we have a lot of ideas as to what may have happened, what may have been occurring before the Big Bang. But at the moment, we have very few ways to really test them. So there are scientific extrapolations from our current knowledge as to guesses, hypotheses as to what happened, before the moment of the Big Bang or before that. But until we can come up with a formulation to really test these ideas, they kind of stay in the realm of philosophy. And that can be very instructive. And I hope that at some point in the future, someone comes up with a way to test these things, but they still more or less stay in that realm of just a good idea. But that being said, one of the current, that's actually kind of an interesting thing, because right now in particle physics, it's not just the LHC and this, the Large Hadron Collider, the biggest experiment ever, and we're still taking data. We're actually right now at a moment of sort of crisis in physics, because we found this particle, the Higgs boson, at this very, very high energy, and we have yet not found any particles around it, these things called supersymmetry particles. And that's really weird. We kind of expected there to be some supersymmetry particles around the same place in this energy range that we found the Higgs boson mass, and we have not found those yet. So in physics and science, as you know, sometimes the lack of a discovery can be as instructive or more instructive than the discovery itself. And as a result of that, what I'm about to say is not a proof of anything, but it makes us start to take seriously this thing. So perhaps the reason that we found the Higgs boson where we did, in this mass range, in this energy range, is because our Higgs boson mass is only one amongst an almost infinite number of other possible Higgs boson masses in other universes in a multiverse. So the fact that we have not found supersymmetry at the Large Hadron Collider is not in any way proof that we live in a multiverse, and that is what could have happened before the moment of the Big Bang. But the fact that we have not found supersymmetry yet makes us start to scratch our heads and to take seriously this idea. Until someone can come up with a concrete way to experiment to test this, I currently have no idea how to contact another universe. I have no idea. But until we come up with that, it's still just a good idea. But this lack of a discovery is very intriguing, and it's making us start to take this more seriously.
Donc on retiendra que le manque de découverte est aussi intéressant que la découverte elle-même, et qu'on cherchera au-delà de notre propre univers. Thank you Monica, thank you James, thank you Laura. Si vous avez d'autres questions, ils sont là.